Beloved, hear me by the Spirit of the living God. There are divine timelines that heaven sets in motion long before we ever see the evidence on earth. And I sense strongly that you have stepped into such a moment. The Lord has issued a decree concerning your life, a divine summons that cannot be delayed, denied, or dismantled by the forces that stand against you. Before the 27th of December, God himself is clearing the path, not by accident, but by assignment, not by coincidence, but by covenant. Something is shifting in the unseen realm on your behalf. For too long, some of you have been entangled in relationships, alliances, and atmospheres that have drained your strength, muted your voice, and sabotaged your momentum. But hear this prophetic word. God is removing what has resisted you. He is uprooting what has hindered you. He is dismantling what has diluted your destiny. 3 people strategically placed, knowingly or unknowingly used to obstruct your rise will be removed from your trajectory, not by your hand, not by your strategy, but by his sovereign intervention. When God moves, no man can resist. When God speaks, no man can silence what he has ordained. So prepare yourself, prepare your heart, your mind, your expectation, because this divine removal is not judgment against them. It is alignment for you. Heaven is making room for your elevation. God is orchestrating the environment needed for your next dimension. When those 3 are moved, the weight that held you down will lift and the doors that refuse to open will swing wide. This is the hour of your rising, the moment of your emergence. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. For before the 27th of December, his word will speak, his hand will move, and his promise will perform. When God declares that he is divinely removing 3 obstructing individuals from your path before the 27th of December to clear the way for your elevation, it is not a casual statement, not a symbolic gesture, and not a vague spiritual sentiment. It is a precise, targeted, strategic move of heaven designed to realign your destiny, restore your momentum, and reestablish the authority you were always meant to walk in. When God speaks of removal, he is speaking about divine displacement, an intentional act of shifting, lifting, uprooting, and reordering the landscape of your life so that what once hindered you can no longer influence where you are going. Many times, the greatest delays in a person's destiny are not demonic attacks, in the sense people imagine. They are relational entanglements, emotional attachments, and soul-level connections that operate as invisible chains. These chains keep you bound to environments you have outgrown, stuck in cycles that no longer serve you, and tied to voices that do not speak life to your future. And so when God says that 3 people will be removed, he is signaling that he has identified the roots, the sources, the channels through which limitation has been flowing into your life, and he is cutting them off at the spiritual source. Every divine removal begins with a divine revelation. You may have sensed for months that certain individuals were not aligned with your assignment. Perhaps you felt a quiet resistance in your spirit whenever you interacted with them, a subtle drain on your energy, a lack of peace that you could not logically explain. Sometimes the people who hinder you are not overtly hostile. They may smile, support you superficially, or appear neutral. But spiritually, their presence carries an energy that slows your progress, clouds your discernment, or keeps you emotionally tethered to old seasons. And because God desires to elevate you quickly, he can no longer allow you to carry the weight of unnecessary attachment. These 3 individuals may not even understand that they have been functioning as roadblocks, but heaven sees what you cannot. Heaven hears conversations you were not present for, detects motives you never discerned, and perceives spiritual intentions that the natural eye cannot catch. So when God decides to remove them, it is because their continued presence would contaminate the next dimension of your destiny. Divine removal is not punishment. It is protection. It is God shielding you from sabotage that has not yet manifested, betrayal that has not yet unfolded, distractions that have not yet appeared. Sometimes the removal is gentle, a drifting apart, a gradual disengagement, a quiet ending. Other times it is abrupt, unexpected, and seemingly disruptive. But even in the abruptness, there is divine orchestration. God knows how to engineer circumstances that expose what has been hidden, sever what has been harmful, and close what has been draining. And although it may feel sudden to you, it is not sudden to heaven. God has monitored these individuals' influence in your life, measured the impact of their presence, and determined that their season has expired. When the season of a relationship is over, no amount of effort, prayer, or emotional investment can keep it alive. The grace for that connection lifts, the spiritual purpose dissolves, and what once felt familiar begins to feel foreign. God is making sure that everything misaligned falls away before your elevation takes place. Elevation requires clarity, focus, strength, and spiritual purity. You cannot rise while being weighed down by relationships that cloud your judgment or siphon your spiritual authority. Some people hold silent envy toward your purpose, and although they may never speak it, their energy resists your breakthrough. Others operate as emotional parasites, draining your strength through subtle negativity or constant crisis. There are also people who unintentionally become obstacles simply because they refuse to grow while God is requiring growth from you. When you remain connected to those who refuse transformation, you inevitably slow down your own progress. So God steps in and removes them so you can move at the pace He has ordained. You will find that once these three individuals are shifted out of your orbit, there will be an unexplainable acceleration in your life. Doors will open more easily. Ideas will flow more clearly. Strategies will come with greater precision. Your energy will return. Your confidence will rise, and your spiritual sensitivity will sharpen. What you thought was a personal struggle was often environmental. What you perceived as emotional heaviness was relational. When God clears the room, your atmosphere changes. This divine removal is also a sign that God is preparing you for visibility, responsibility, and influence. Before God elevates a person, He often isolates them not for loneliness, but for refinement. He strips away people whose motives are not pure, whose hearts are not loyal, and whose presence would pollute the next stage of your journey. The higher God lifts you, the fewer people can travel with you, not because you are superior, but because altitude requires alignment. Some individuals were suitable for where you were, but they cannot accompany you to where you are going. Their mindset conflicts with your mission. Their behavior contradicts your calling. Their presence creates openings for spiritual interference. And God, knowing the magnitude of the assignment He is placing on your shoulders, ensures that no one who would mishandle your destiny remains close enough to contaminate it. The removal of the three people is a divine pruning, a cutting back, so that growth can flourish unhindered. You may not immediately recognize who these three individuals are. Sometimes God removes them before you are aware of their true spiritual impact. Other times He reveals their identity through parents' repeated conflict. Unusual tension or sudden shifts in their attitude toward you. You may find that communication becomes strained, misunderstandings increase, or something in your spirit feels misaligned when you are around them. Trust the discomfort. Trust the distancing. Trust the silence. God often speaks not only through words, but through shifts. When someone who once felt central to your life suddenly drifts to the background, it is not always an attack. Sometimes it is a divine rearrangement. Pay attention to what God allows to exit. Pay attention to what no longer fits. Pay attention to who becomes restless in your presence. When your spirit starts rising, the wrong people start reacting. Your elevation irritates those who benefit from your stagnation. And so God removes them before they sabotage what He is about to promote. There are times when God orchestrates removal through exposure. He allows truth to surface, motives to reveal themselves, and hidden agendas to come to light. You may hear a comment, discover information, or witness behavior that may it unmistakably clear that a person is not aligned with your future. This exposure is not meant to wound you. It is meant to free you. It is better to be disappointed for a moment than to be derailed for a lifetime. And so God removes through revelation showing you what you need to see so that you can let go without confusion. In this season, clarity will be your companion. You will understand why certain people were never meant to walk with you to the next level. You will see how their removal becomes the missing piece needed for things to accelerate. Once they are gone, you will realize how much weight you were unconsciously carrying. God is not removing people out of anger. He is removing them out of purpose. He is removing them because where he is taking you is too significant, too weighty, too holy to be shared with individuals who do not honor it. Some people are comfortable with your past, but intimidated by your future. Others can celebrate your survival, but cannot handle your success. And there are those who love the version of you that needs them, but fear the version of you that is independent, powerful, and elevated. God sees the silent competition, the hidden jealousy, the covert resistance. He sees who prays for you and who prays on you. He sees who celebrates you publicly but undermines you privately. You may not have discerned these dynamics, but God has, and before the 27th of December, he is settling the matter. He's removing the misaligned so that your spirit can breathe again. This removal will not leave you empty. It will create space for what and who is ordained for your next season. When God takes away, he also prepares to restore. The absence of the wrong people makes room for the presence of the right people. Relationships that elevate you, not drain you, alliances that strengthen you, not sabotage you, connections that align with where God is taking you. God is clearing the environment so that what he has prepared can enter without resistance. And you will look back and realize that the removal of those three individuals was the hinge on which the door of your destiny swung open. When God declares that this divine removal is an act of alignment, positioning you for accelerated rise and fulfilled destiny, he is revealing a spiritual principle that many overlook. Elevation is never random. Breakthrough is never accidental. Advancement is never spontaneous. Every movement of God in your life is orchestrated with precision, accuracy, and intention. Alignment is the spiritual process by which God brings your life, your relationships, your mindset, your environment, and your inner posture into agreement with his plan. Without alignment, even the greatest promise can remain dormant. Without alignment, even the most powerful prophecy can remain unfulfilled. Without alignment, even the most gifted individual can remain hidden in obscurity. Alignment is the bridge between promise and manifestation. It is the divine reset that prepares you for what God has prepared for you. When God begins aligning your destiny, he does not simply add new things to your life. He also subtracts. He removes what no longer fits. He uproots what no longer contributes. He dismantles what no longer serves his purpose for you. Many people ask God for elevation, but elevation requires alignment, and alignment requires removal. You cannot rise while holding onto anything that keeps you anchored to an old dimension. Elevation requires spiritual lightness, emotional clarity, and relational purity. And so before God lifts you, he aligns your atmosphere. Before he exposes you to the next level, he removes what would contaminate that level. Before he increases your influence, he removes those who misuse access. This removal is not rejection, it is refinement. It is God eliminating any person, relationship, or influence that would distort your direction or delay your progress. Alignment is God positioning you in the right place, with the right mindset, around the right people at the right moment. It is not merely a shift. It is a divine calibration. It is God fine-tuning your circumstances so your life resonates with heaven's frequency. You may think some connections fell apart by coincidence. You may think certain opportunities slipped away because of human error. You may think certain relationships ended because seasons changed. But in truth, it was alignment. God will not allow anything to remain in your life that compromises your calling. When you pray for destiny, you also pray for divine elimination, whether you realize it or not. And so this removal is part of heaven's engineering. God is reorganizing the structure of your life so that nothing interferes with the promise he placed within you. When God aligns you, he is preparing you for acceleration. Acceleration is not simply moving faster. It is bypassing stages, leaping over obstacles, recovering lost time, and stepping into opportunities that would normally take years to access. Acceleration is a divine pace, not a human pace. It happens when God removes the friction that once slowed you down. Friction often comes in the form of relationships that drain your energy, environments that restrict you, creativity, voices that weaken your faith, and connections that blur your discernment. Whenever God is ready to accelerate you, he removes the friction. He separates you from anything that would slow your movement. He disconnects you from individuals whose presence is a burden, even if your heart is attached. He cuts ties with people who cannot digest your destiny. This is not cruelty, it is necessity. God will not allow anything or anyone to hinder your pace when he has determined it is your time to rise. Before elevation, God often creates divine disorientation. Things that once felt stable suddenly shift. People who once felt central to your life begin to distance themselves. Situations that once felt predictable become uncertain. This is not confusion, it is alignment. God is loosening your grip on the old so he can anchor you into the new. Many people attempt to hold on to relationships or surroundings that God has already released them from. But alignment does not allow loyalty to override destiny. Alignment does not allow emotional comfort to override spiritual requirement. Alignment does not allow fear of change to override the necessity of movement. God aligns you by forcing your life out of complacency and into progression. You cannot hold on to the familiar and step into the future at the same time. The removal of the three obstructing individuals signifies that God is shifting you. Relational structure, because who surrounds you determines where you can go. Relationships are gateways. People are spiritual conduits. Some elevate you, others suppress you. Some accelerate you, others delay you. Some sharpen you, others dull you. Some awaken your potential, others suffocate it. And so when God removes individuals from your path, he is closing the gateways that lead to distraction, stagnation, and limitation. This removal is heaven protecting the purity of your next season. It is God shielding your destiny from the wrong influence. It is God ensuring that the people around you carry the right posture, the right intention, and the right spirit. For where he is taking you, alignment requires agreement. You cannot walk with people who are not in agreement with your destiny. Agreement is not about personality or preference. It is about spiritual direction. If someone is walking north and your destiny is leading south, connection becomes conflict. If someone's assignment contradicts your assignment, unity becomes impossible. If someone's spiritual posture destabilizes your spiritual clarity, partnership becomes dangerous. God sees these contradictions long before you do, which is why he removed the misaligned before they can interfere with your elevation. You may feel lost, but God sees protection. You may feel separation, but God sees preparation. You may feel discomfort, but God sees destiny alignment. When alignment begins, your desires start changing. What once fascinated you no longer interests you. What once entertained you no longer feeds you. Conversations that once felt fulfilling suddenly feel empty. Environments you once tolerated begin to suffocate your spirit. This is not moodiness, it is transformation. God is elevating your appetite so that only what is aligned with your destiny can satisfy you. This inner recalibration is part of divine alignment. Before God elevates your outer life, he elevates your inner life. He adjusts your thinking. He sharpens your discernment. He intensifies your spiritual sensitivity. He increases your hunger for purpose, prayer, purity, and power. Elevation is not an event, it is a process. And alignment is the stage of that process where God rewires your desires to match his intentions. Alignment also demands separation from familiar patterns and cycles. Many people expect breakthrough while still living with habits that sabotage their advancement. But God will not elevate you into a dimension your habits cannot sustain. So when alignment begins, God challenges the patterns that kept you in old cycles. He exposes the behaviors that contradict your destiny. He confronts the mindsets that limit your potential. He disrupts the routines that made you comfortable but unproductive. This removal of old patterns is as important as the removal of old people. Elevation requires discipline, structure, vision, and focus. God aligns your inner world so that your external elevation can be maintained without collapse. This divine alignment positions you for encounters, opportunities, and divine connections that would not have been accessible in your previous alignment. When God aligns you, He aligns your steps with people who recognize your value, environments that honor your calling, and opportunities that amplify your gift. You will find yourself in rooms you did not expect, conversations you did not request, and circles you did not pursue. This is not coincidence, it is alignment. God orchestrates your steps so that you are at the right place at the right time, meeting the right individuals whose presence is essential to your next dimension. These connections are purposeful. They are destiny igniters, not destiny drainers. Alignment also accelerates clarity. When misaligned people and environments are removed, the noise around you decreases. You begin hearing God more clearly. You begin understanding instructions more accurately. You begin discerning direction more confidently. Confusion lifts, hesitation dissolves, and uncertainty breaks. You begin to see why certain things never worked, why certain prayers were delayed, and why certain relationships ended. Alignment brings understanding, and understanding brings peace. Where there is alignment, there is flow. Where there is alignment, there is ease. Where there is alignment, there is supernatural momentum. This alignment is not only about your destiny, it is also about your identity. God removes the wrong people so you can rediscover who you truly are. Sometimes the voices around you drown out within you. Sometimes constant criticism, comparison, or control distorts your self-perception. But when God removes the wrong influences, you begin to see yourself through the lens of heaven again. You regain confidence, boldness, authority, and clarity. You remember your value. You reclaim your voice. You rise into the version of yourself that God always intended. And this restored identity becomes the foundation of your elevation. Alignment is heaven's vote of confidence. It means God has determined you are ready for responsibility, ready for promotion, ready for visibility, ready for transformation, ready for the next dimension. God will not align what He does not intend to elevate, and He will not elevate what He has not already aligned. Before the end of December, the alignment will be undeniable. You will see the removal. You will sense the shift. You will feel the acceleration. You will recognize the positioning. And this divine repositioning will be the catalyst that launches you into the season your spirit has been anticipating.